Yeah, this shit feel good. Feel like I'm walking down Sunset, mink on my back.
What up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode. Y'all on the Real Go Getters channel right here. You know, this is the channel for the real go getters right here. This ain't for the procrastinators. This ain't for the one day I'm gonna wake up and do it. Nah, this for the motherfuckers that's out there getting to it. So nonetheless, though, man, welcome back to another episode. It's been about a year and some change since I uploaded a video. Man, I've been all over the world and back since I last tapped in with y'all. Man, my apologies for not staying consistent, but I hope everybody that's been down from day one stays down, because I got many more episodes, reaction videos, car videos, e-com, you name it. I'm about to bring it to y'all. But it's been about a year and some change since I uploaded. And last time I uploaded, you know, I was still in Colorado. As y'all can see right now, you know, the establishment has changed a little bit. Got a new crib, moved out west, and I'll get to all that here in a second. But ultimately, the biggest thing that done changed is, man, my mom, you know, out of all people, you know, the closest person to me, my why, my rock, my everything, you know, passed away last August 4th to be exact. And as I make this video, today's August 1st, you know, the 1 year anniversary is coming up here in 3 more days. So, you know, definitely feeling some kind of way about that. You know, my motherfucking heart hurts, my heart aches. And ultimately, as I make this video, you know, she's looking right back at me right here. You know, this is my mother right here. This is my mom, Julie Jacobs, right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. That's me as a baby with her right there, you know, when I had curly hair and everything. But yeah, my mom, beautiful woman, one of a kind, eternally missed and missed like no other. But before I get too far ahead of myself, man, about a year and some change ago, you know, I was doing e-com, making y'all the e-com videos and all that. Still doing e-com, but ultimately, you know, with the world and the economy like it is right now, it's just a little bit slower than I like it to be. But you know, I'm still thankful that it allows for a passive lifestyle. Still thankful that it provided all of what you see right here, because, man, I come from nothing. I come from very humble beginnings, and ultimately, you know, I come from a motherfucking prison cell, you know, 11.5 years, you know, mind fucked in a concrete box on a concrete island on level 3 and level 4 yards, you know, to being able to get out here and manifest something like this right here. You know, gotta thank God. You gotta be appreciative when things like this go your way. But I don't do the China drop shipping no more. I only do that to test. And ultimately, you know, when I was living in Colorado, you know, I was taking care of my mother, you know, and my mom had COPD, and she had it while I was in prison. When I was in prison, she developed COPD, and ultimately it comes from her smoking cigarettes for so many years. My mom was a heavy smoker, and, you know, ultimately it took her toll on her, and she was reduced to oxygen and wearing one of those, you know, things in her nose, and she had to carry an oxygen tank. And when she's at the house and when she slept, she had to have an oxygen tank on. And ultimately, it limited her to what she could do around the house, how she could do things. So I was always her primary caretaker. Like I said earlier, I don't come from a big family. You know, majority of the family that I do have live in California or they live in Nebraska. And I don't have no other siblings. You know, I'm the only child. My mother's only child, was raised by my mom. She played my mom and my dad. My grandmother passed when I went to prison, the year before I went to prison, and I was pretty close to her. But ultimately, beside her, I only got my dad, and he's 84, and he lives in Crescent City, California right now. So I really don't get a chance to see him. But my entire life, my mom has been my parent, my main parent, and my person, really. She really been my person, the one person that I could talk to, that I could relate to, that I could understand, and that gave me the game. And ultimately, living in Colorado and Denver, when I got out of prison, you know, I kept friendships with people that I had met while I was incarcerated. And one of those people I kept as a friend, right? I kept a friend close to me, and when I started one of my businesses, I gave him the opportunity to be part of the business. By doing that, I opened up a door for all kind of trouble, which, looking back in retrospect, is clear as day. But, you know, being out of prison, never having a business, none of that stuff right there. I was green and blind to a whole lot of things. But ultimately, this person, I gave him a shot at being in my business. The tables turned. They showed me their true colors. Told them, hey, look, no more, can't be part of it. The way the retaliation to that was to sue me. They sued me and tried to say that ultimately that they started my business and that they had full, complete ownership of the business and that I pushed them out.
What?
Which is fraudulent as ever, you know, but sounds good, and ultimately I get it, you know, ultimately that's the name of the game.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh I'm hurt, oh God! I'm suing y'all! Oh, I'm hurt, oh my neck, my back, my neck and my back, oh, I want 150,000. But we can settle out of court right now for 20 bucks.
Right, you know, you twist and turn details to make the story fit yours, and then when you get in front of the judge, you try to twist and turn, but business and friendship, now looking back, it doesn't mix. I would never recommend it, never probably would do it again either, unless, you know, we're definitely on a solid page and, you know, stuff is probably in contracts and writing. But for anybody that's ever went in front of an attorney or a judge, you know how costly and expensive that shit is. But long story short, the motherfucker sues me, and keep in mind this is somebody I knew in prison, with somebody I was best friends with. You know, motherfucker sues me and tries to basically extort me. You know, he's saying, look, I'm gonna sue you unless you pay me blah, blah, blah.
You rat bastard.
You know, I ain't never gonna be extorted by shit, and I surely ain't gonna pay you under none of them false pretenses, you know.
Now, this just goes to show as an example of the clownery that I was dealing with this clown. This is a conversation that was initiated by this clown. And he goes on to say, TJ, which is me, it's your old comrade, haha. Don't you think it's time we had a talk? Call me, Bobby. My response to that is, sorry, officer, I'll pass, but thanks anyway. So he laughs again. Are you insinuating that I told on someone? I don't think you fully grasp the concept of what's going on. When I was in prison, I read a book called Crucial Conversations, The Appropriate Dialogue When Stakes Are High. It'll be your best interest to contact me. If not, you'll hear from my Bulldog attorney. And if that occurs, then the cost goes up substantially. Call me, Tim. So, my response to that is, you're a fraud and karma don't skip no one. You was on the stand pointing fingers and got a conviction. Enforce that, Sammy the Bull. That's your legacy. And you always gonna be known as a piece of shit. Peace to you. So the clown's response was, the judge must have been a fraud as well, being that he awarded the judgment. Why do you suppose that happened? Your greed and arrogance defeated you. I understand karma and not ashamed to say that was God's work, and he'll continue to guide my steps. Now, be a good sport. Don't let this event limit your success. Haha, a ticket should be a drop in this bucket for you ambitious minds. This will be my last request, Timmy. You have until noon tomorrow. Now, he's trying to shoot a shot by saying it should be a shot in the bucket for me ambitious minds, because Ambitious Minds is one of my first businesses, and I transitioned to a clothing company. But my response to this clown was, your marriage, fake. Your character, fake. Your accomplishments, fake. The stuff that you project to the world, all that shit is fake. That, my friend, makes you fake. You are a fraud, and you can deal with that on your walk in life. You and I know what it is, Bobby. Enforce that, officer. And I hit him with a picture of him on the stand, and here's what he says. You haven't grown much, surprisingly. Haha. I presume you'll continue to make foolish steps until you learn to separate logic from emotion and business from personal. Nice picture, by the way. Collection fees are paid by the debtor. My attorney wants to collect for 1/3 of what it was awarded. Now, I'm no math expert, but that's an additional few $100K, along with, if I'm not mistaken, 8% of annual interest. With simple math, that comes out to be 80K of interest, which is enough to live on. Get some expert advice and don't get any bright ideas, because I got all cylinders covers. Trust me, this is chess, and I don't need you to tell me how good I am at that. Peace. And I just told him good luck. They'll use a clown. Motherfucking want to sound so sophisticated and motherfucking righteous, but motherfucking me and you know what it is. We know who you are. We know what kind of slime ball you are. When you look in the mirror, you see it. He said, thanks, but you're going to need luck. More than me. Well wishes.
Ultimately, I gave him the offer to get his inventory money back that he ultimately put in. He had got some inventory for his own resale that he would sell on his own markup. but never did he have access to the full business. Never did he have access to the main business, nor did he help create the main business. The dude sues me, has a Bulldog Lawyer.
Next, we're in Denver, Colorado, for the deposition of attorney Robert Abrams. Abrams' firm was added as a defendant alongside their client in a lawsuit between two former business partners and are being sued for fraud, conspiracy, and aiding and abetting a criminal by the plaintiff.
Good morning, Mr. Abrams. Do you understand why you've been asked to give your deposition today?
No.
To say tensions are high in the room would be an understatement. Asking the questions off camera is the plaintiff's lawyer, Tom Werge. And on the other side of the table is Abrams' lawyer, Neil Sullenberger.
Are you aware that your firm, Abrams & Associates, is a defendant in a lawsuit that's going to trial next month?
Yes.
Have you had your deposition taken before?
I think so.
When have you had your deposition taken before?
I don't recall.
How many times?
I don't recall.
You're sitting here today under oath. You have no idea whether you've been deposed before?
I've answered that question. Object to form. Move on.
Object to form is a quick way to object during a deposition and, in effect, ask the attorney to clarify the question.
Have you been deposed?
Object to form.
Object to form. Move to certify the question. If you feel that I haven't answered, then you can move for a sanction.
We're going to go ahead and stop the deposition at this point and dial the special master. Good morning. Yes, we are in the middle of a deposition this morning.
But when the special master isn't available, plaintiff's attorney Tom Werge asks the same question again.
Mr. Abrams, have you had your deposition taken before?
And gets the same answer.
Object to form.
Asked and answered. Move on.
You need to answer the question.
The question was answered. Excuse me. Have her read it back.
Yep.
Mr. Abrams, this is not your deposition.
Please don't harass me.
No, I'm not harassing you.
We're going to move for sanctions
I'm
against
asking
you.
you to
If you're not
answer
going
your
to
question.
allow
He just
her-
answered the question.
As the heated back and forth continues, Abrams, who is a witness, begins making his own objections, which a witness is not allowed to do during a deposition.
I'm going to raise, move to strike, find it objectionable, and then move for sanctions for harassment under Rule 30D. You can look it up if you don't know it.
Mr. Abrams, I feel quite confident that if any sanctions are entered in this matter, it's going to be against you.
Object to form.
For continuing to obstruct and not answer any of my questions.
Object to
You
form.
cannot object.
I just did.
You cannot.
I just did. I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed, unblemished member of the bar. Unblemished. I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed, unblemished member of the bar. Unblemished.
I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed, unblemished member of the bar. Unblemished.
If you laugh at me one more time, we're going to walk out.
We're going to move for 30D3
We're
sections.
going to move for harassment sanctions against you right now.
Things only get worse when the arguments take a personal turn.
We're going to be here for a long time today if you do not answer my questions. I can't even get through my initial questions here because you are being so obstructionist.
That's
today.
because you're a weak lawyer. You have us down here for fraud. Ask us fraud questions.
Okay, let's ask a couple more questions. Mr. Abrams, what are the pills that you just took?
Object to form.
None of your business. None of
Privilege.
What are those other pills?
Object to form. Object to privilege.
None of your business. But I can tell you that if you took some of these, they would help get some of your weight off. I can tell you that.
Oh, you're referring to when you called me fat when you walked in here.
Object to form.
If you want to raise your weight problem, Mr. Ward, with the jury and with the special master, please do. But we're not the ones that are sitting here in that condition.
I am going to end this deposition now.
Okay.
Mr. Abrams, we're going to continue it while we seek intervention of the special master.
Fine.
It's clear that you are not here to answer any questions today. We are going to move for sanctions against you and your firm for your conduct during this deposition, and we will take that up with the special master.
And we'll represent your conduct during this deposition.
Please do.
After reviewing the transcripts from the deposition, the special master issued an order for sanctions against Abram. His behavior during the deposition, along with other misconduct in the case, would ultimately earn Abrams a 9-month license suspension.
You have no evidence. Put something in front of me and we'll answer the questions. You have.
I get a lawyer, I paid him $20,000, $30,000 these motherfuckers are getting bulldogged by his lawyer. I still ain't gonna pay nothing. And that's what they kept telling me. It was like, you know, it's cheaper just to give this guy some money so he'd go away, or, you know, you keep paying us. Me being the hard-hitted person that I am, you know, ultimately, I'm gonna stand on my principles, and I ain't gonna pay the motherfucking shit under the principle, you know, ultimately. And I went the hard route paying the attorneys. Now, keep in mind, $20,000, $30,000 to me now really ain't shit, right? But ultimately, back then, $20,000, $30,000 was a whole lot of fucking money. And this is in 2017. Now, $20,000, $30,000 could go a long ways. You know, that could have been a house payment. That could have been all kinds of shit. But ultimately, it went to a lawyer. It went to basically a motherfucker that got in front of the judge and just reiterated what I told them in legal terminology. Biggest waste of money in my fucking eyes, but it's the way the world works. It's the way the law system's set up. And looking back at it, you know, I wish I would have went about things different and screened my lawyers a little bit differently, because that lawyer wasn't working for me, nor were they working for results. They were working for the price tag, because that's what they always wanted, was getting paid. We go all the way up until trial. You know, ultimately they told me they wanted $80,000, $90,000 to go to trial and fight the case for me. I fired their ass on the spot. I ain't paying that type of shit. So I went into court and represented myself, and by doing that, I got a default judgment on me by default, right? By going in there and representing myself, because in these kind of cases, you cannot represent yourself. You have to have a legal team that represents you. And if that ain't the most crock of shit I've ever heard of, I don't know what is, because, you know, ultimately they're saying, you know, you need to pay a lawyer to go in front of this judge to argue on your pretense because they know the law and you don't. So nonetheless, I go in there. I've already got a default judgment on me, but the judge allows the court to go through, and here's my side, and here's what I got to say. But meanwhile, you know, the lawyer of this guy's team, you know, he's a bulldog, and he's on my ass. But you know, every time I go to reference something, you know, he stands up and I object, Your Honor. I object, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed, unblemished member of the bar. Unblemished. 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 Unblemished.
Ultimately, the judge would go for it because he was objecting under pretenses of the law that I didn't understand, that I was ignorant to. So, long story short, they motherfucking give him the verdict. They rule in his favor. They give him $1 million, motherfucking $1 million judgment that says that I owe him $1 million from my business for kicking him out the business.
Sir, now that you've got your check, do you plan on quitting your job driving this truck?
Truck driver? I ain't no truck driver. I'm a janitor.
Janitor?
That's right, baby. I just bought this truck straight cash. And I got enough cigarettes to last me and my family for the rest of our lives. I'm rich, bitch!
Biggest crock of shit ever, right? One of the things that this guy fails to bring up is that before he ever got into business, he was going to pay me a $20K buy-in, which he never paid me. He was waiting on a refinancing of his home or something. But long story short, he don't even bring all that up. And I mean, it is what it is. They get in there and they played a good picture, a good movie, and it sounded real good to the people that heard it. But you know, between me, him, and God, we all know what the truth is. You know, I still stand on my principles. Fuck that guy. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they give him the $1 million judgment. I tell him I ain't about to pay shit. I ain't gonna pay you nothing. I ain't paying a motherfucking none of that shit. Fuck him and fuck them lawyers and fuck you. And I've been standing on that for a long time. But ultimately, what that made me do is have to leave the state of Colorado, because staying in Colorado, I'm still liable to this motherfucker right here for $1 million. So ultimately, I ain't never gonna pay that. So I can't never be in Colorado.
City and county, you know what I mean? To pay a fine of $1,000 as a sanction for his willful non-compliance.
I think that the court is well within its discretion to order a bench warrant for Mr. Jacobs until he complies, and that's just within Rule 107 itself.
Got sideways and went out west. Now, when I went out west, unfortunately, I had to leave my mom at home. I had to leave my mom back in Colorado with COPD, and I had to get her a caretaker, and I had to ultimately, you know, leave her, because there's no way I could stay in Colorado, because by me telling these lawyers in the courts, fuck you, they basically just put out a bench warrant and told me that I need to turn over all my banking information so they could attach themselves to my account, take all my money and do all that shit. But ultimately, you know, that ain't the way it works for me. I had no choice. I had to leave Colorado. You know, the principal is too expensive to me in comparison to, you know, paying this guy under pretenses, because basically what he's doing is extorting me through the court of law. But long story short, I leave Colorado. I go out west. I get a new crib out here, furnish it out. You know, things are good. And you know, a few months go by. My mom goes and gets
the Rona vaccine.
I probably shouldn't even be saying that on here because ultimately, you know, I know the YouTube algorithm probably hits it, but ultimately she goes and gets that Moderna, and within 2 weeks of getting that Moderna, her feet start swelling up. She starts getting blisters. She starts not being able to walk. You know, she's bedridden. She's basically on hospice care within like 2 to 3 weeks of taking the Moderna, and man, it killed me. It killed me to be out here and be so far away from her and not be able to help her or do anything like that. And knowing if I go back to Colorado, I got a bench warrant, and that more likely this scumbag back here, God's bounty hunter, is looking to pick me up because they'd rather see me in jail, they'd rather see me locked up than see me out here prospering, because they know what time it is. They know I'm a motherfucking go-getter. You know, this name ain't go-getter. This ain't no shit I just motherfucking randomly pulled out the air. This is who I am. I'm a go-getter. I'm a motherfucking go-getting motherfucker, man. I wake up in the morning and I go after my goals, and I don't stop till I reach them. And if there's something in my way, you know, I go over it, under it, or through it. And I learned that from my mother right there, because my mother is an entrepreneur by nature. And, you know, ultimately, you know, one piece of the puzzle I left out is, you know, meanwhile, while this guy was suing me, right, by you saying that I stole his business and all that stuff, right, he goes on to copy my business and make a knockoff business of the exact same business of mine, using every template, logo, similar boxing, and the whole nine, and he fails miserably. I mean,
What are you doing?
I mean, waste of money, you know, no competition whatsoever. But meanwhile, you know, he's saying that, you know, he's suing me, saying that I stole his business, but at the same time, he's competing with me with a whole nother knockoff business. I'm glad I kicked that motherfucker out the equation early enough, because even though this should have been this costly, it could have been way more costly had he actually been involved when the money started really flowing in, and, you know, ultimately having access to the accounts and actually buying a piece of equity of the business. Thank God his motherfucking ass got thrown out way before that, because you see, here we are 5 years later and the motherfucking paper's still flowing in. And I'm thankful, because, you know, ultimately in the Bible, God says he'll make your enemies his footstool. And that's ultimately what he's done. He's made this motherfucking scumbag my footstool. And that's what I've been doing, stepping on this motherfucker like the roach he is. But yeah, back to my mom. Man, ultimately, shit, she went on hospice in June last year. And fuck, from June to August 4th, man, she was, you know, bedridden, couldn't move, you know, scared to roll over at night because she thought, you know, ultimately she would stop breathing. And man, I made it back to Colorado last year, like right at the end of July, in the start of August, and, you know, I made it home low key, and that's why, you know, I kind of blacked out my social media, because, you know, I had to get back out to the town. And man, I get out there, and man, I was able to be with my mom when she took her last breath and she passed away. And man, it was probably one of the motherfucking saddest days of my life. You know, I watched my mom stop breathing. I watched the soul leave out of her body. And, you know, it was the weirdest shit, because the next day after she passed away, there was this big bird that showed up in the backyard, real exotic looking bird. Never seen it a day in my life, and it was the most comforting thing that I could get from the other side. That was like a realization that she had transitioned. You know what I mean? She had transitioned and everything was good, because ultimately weeks, months go down the road, and I see a sign, and it said free as a bird, and it all clicked in my mind what that bird was representing me. You know, free as a bird. You know, my mom was trapped to that ventilator. She was trapped to COPD, and she was trapped behind the world at large with the COVID shit going on. And you know, she was now free as a bird to be able to fly and be able to actually, you know, be able to be free from all that right there. And you know, as sad as it hurts me, it aches me to see my mom pass from this realm of life. A piece of my spirit feels good knowing that she's somewhere better than where this world is, because ultimately this world done went to shit. And you know, at the end of the day, we can look around and we see all the stuff that's going on, and you know, just to know to live is to suffer. That no way that while you're living, no way will you not be suffering. But you know, my mother passed, and ultimately, you know, it took me a little minute to regroup and get myself back together. You know, my mom was a very well loved and cared for individual, and you know, with her passing, you know, it ultimately showed me how much of an impact a person can have while they're alive, and that ultimately that impact really is the biggest thing to aim for in life, because you know, money, material shit, that shit comes and goes. You know, I learned a lot with my mother's passing. With this coming up a year, you know, it kind of is bittersweet, and I'll touch on that in another video. But you know, I want to get this channel rolling again and bring y'all the latest updates and news, and give y'all, you know, some strategies and some game that y'all can use that ultimately can be beneficial to y'all in y'all's lives, and y'all can ultimately, you know, rise up out the mud like I did. Because if I did it, man, anybody can motherfucking do it. And it just takes the grit, grind, and the consistency to show up every day for that shit you want. Like I said, man, this channel ain't by accident. You know, my name ain't by accident. None of that shit. This is really what it's about getting up, going after what you want, and not settling for less. And, you know, being in that motherfucking prison cell for 11.5 years, that shit developed a hunger like no other that I can't even tell you. You know, and I wish I could explain it better in words, but even after the time that I've been out, I still have that drive and that hunger like no other, because I'm not where I want to be at in life. Don't get it twisted. This is cool, love it, it's great, but man, I want to be in such a bigger, better place, and I still want to have many more things, and you know, ultimately have many more experiences in life and travel, and you know, all that good shit. Once again, I appreciate everybody that's been tuning in, everybody that's new to the channel, and salute, welcome, and I hope to bring y'all a whole bunch more heat coming after this one right here. But man, I appreciate y'all more than I can tell y'all. Thank y'all again for tapping in, and I'm coming back around the corner with a new one real soon. Out.